The Audi A3 gets a refresh for the 2025 model year, and in this video I'm going to cover the exterior changes, the interior changes, take it for a drive and see what it's like out on the road, as well as talking about the kind of fuel economy you can expect and also the pricing and how it compares to the competition these days. And so as far as the changes here for 2025, well, it is just a refresh, but it does get some nice styling changes. So up front there, the biggest change I think is going to be that grille, where you have the bolder Audi badge and the way the whole grille is a little bit wider than before, and that's combined with a new front bumper and also these new headlights, which have these customizable DRL signatures in them with adjustable lighting, which is a cool touch here. It's a different look up front. You'll have to let me know in the comments whether you like this or the pre-refresh better, but it certainly does modernize this and bring it up to speed with the other Audis in the lineup a little bit. You also get a few new colors here, including this red color that's new for 2025. There's also a green and also a matte gray that have been added to the color palette, which is good to see some more colors for sure. And coming down to the sides here, we have some 18-inch wheels, with this one having the black optic package. Otherwise though, the sides are all the same. The back end does get slight tweaks to the taillights, so they're a little bit different. And you also have a very minorly modified rear bumper there, so a little bit of a change there, and the rear diffuser's changed up a little bit. But other than that, continues to be this nice small size and really a good looking vehicle in this segment, where a lot of the others are a little awkward. CLA is trying to do the coupe thing, and 228 seems kind of scrunched. This is, I think, one of the better looking ones in its segment for sure, and glad that hasn't changed here for 2025. The interior of the 2025 A3 gets a few little changes here. It's subtle, but there are some nice changes that are appreciated. One of the main things you might notice here first is that you have some nicer materials, and you have like these new perforations on the doors that are backlit at night, which is a really cool touch. And you also have a slight tweak to the air vent design. You also have a new shifter here, a new stereo, and a few other things I'll cover here. But first thing, sitting down in these seats, you still have the same basic seats, and these seats are very comfortable, and they are power with memory adjustments here. But you will need to go up to the Premium Plus trim if you want that memory function. But unfortunately, there's no ventilated seat option whatsoever, which is a disappointment. And the seats aren't even perforated, so they do get a little hot in the summer here. They don't breathe quite as well as perforated seats do, and that is a big miss, because some of the better competitors in this segment do offer ventilated seats. Not all of them do, but I just wish we would have that here, and I guess we'll maybe hopefully see it for next generation if that happens. But anyway, moving on to the steering wheel here. Another miss is that it's a great wheel. It's the same great Audi wheel we're used to here. I love the lack of buttons on it, and the fact that you just have all your cruise control controls on a separate stock still. I love that, and it's got a great 9-3 grip, nice little 10 and 2 notches, but it's not a heated wheel. And I'm assuming if you're going for an Audi, it has all-wheel drive, and a lot of people want that all-wheel drive for the winter capability that brings. And you would think those people would very much appreciate and put a high value on a heated steering wheel. Audi has it in the parts bin. Why it's not available here, even on a top trim of the A3, is kind of crazy to me. And it's just something that you get as standard on a Volkswagen GTI. Why is the A3 not having it on its top trim? So, there's a few little odd things that I thought they would maybe fix here for this refresh that they still haven't. Now, the gauge cluster here, in these versions with the tech package, you get the 12.3-inch Audi MMI system here, but if you go for the lower trims, you will still get a 10.25-inch digital gauge cluster, which still should be just fine. But this one, is really nice. I still love how you have the Google Maps satellite view there you can have, and, the adjustability there. Not a ton of customization, but, it's nice to have the different views there. And overall, really nice gauge cluster. It's also worth noting there's no way to get a head-up display in the A3. That is something that some of the competitors do have, and this doesn't, so just keep that in mind. Now, as far as the infotainment coming over to the middle here, though, you still have the same 10.25-inch touchscreen here. It works really well, though. It's the same one I've been using for several years now. No complaints with it. It has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto that work flawlessly all week here. Now, you unfortunately have to go up to either the Premium Plus or the Convenience package, I think, in order to get Sirius satellite radio. So just keep that in mind. But, going through radio stations and all that's nice and easy to do. And overall, just a really easy screen to use still. I really like it. And I also love that we still have retained physical climate controls, and that we do have, this nice little row of switches here for that, and I'm very happy to see that we've retained that. We also have another additional row of switches here beneath that, and you'll also see the center area, you have a larger bin here now, and that's thanks to this new shifter that opens up a little more space there for the wireless charging pad, which isn't standard but does come here on the upper trims here. And the shifter is the same one we see in other Audis in 2025 here. We also still do have this little touch sensitive volume and track skipper kind of combined control there, which works fine, and thankfully you do still have actual buttons here on the steering wheel for the driver, so that's good. And then you also have, of course, your two cup holders, the tiny little key holder there, and also the center armrest, which is still very small but softly padded. And you open that up and you'll see a very small space. It's so small that I can't even fit my sunglasses with the case in there. So, you know, I wish they had fixed that a little bit, but, you know, again, maybe for a new generation. Thankfully, though, you do have nice large pockets in the doors, and that's where I've been keeping my sunglasses case, in that bottle holder area there. And also in that area, you'll see the new Sonos stereo that this has, which is a 15 speaker, 680 watt stereo. And it sounds really good. It replaces the Bang & Olufsen stereo we had previously. The Bang & Olufsen was really good. This feels mostly the same to me. I'm not sure, you know, someone who's more technical than me about this, you know, audio experience might be able to critique it better than I can. But to my ears, it still has a great surround sound for a vehicle in this segment, and is one of the best stereos, I'd say, under $40,000 here as well. Although this just barely is over 40 whenever you do option in the stereo, but you know, in that ballpark, I'd say it's one of the best. Now, you also do have one of the biggest moonroofs in this segment, which comes standard impressively. A lot of others make you pay extra for that. That's standard here on the A3, and great to have as well. And then moving on to the back seat here, no changes there because it's the same as it was before. So if you're familiar with this size constraint of the A3, it's better than you might expect looking at it from the outside. I mean, I'm 5'9", and me sitting behind myself, I have about 2 inches of legroom to spare there, and about the same for headroom there. You know, it's not super spacious. I wouldn't consider this a top pick if you're going to haul people in the backseat all the time, but for the occasional backseat usage, I think this is going to be completely fine. And you also see they do have dedicated air vents, which is a nice amenity, and even a little slider there to control the climate somewhat, and also a fold-down center armrest with two cup holders built into it and pockets in those doors. Trunk is also, again, all the same here since the pre-refresh, and it's, you know, for this size of vehicle, pretty good. You know, fairly long, fairly wide. Underneath the floor, you do thankfully still have a spare tire, which is great, and something that is getting more rare, so I appreciate that being retained. And you also now, for 2025, have a kick to open feature here, at least in these top versions of the A3. And, you know, I mean, it's a small little vehicle. I don't think it was really necessary, but you have that now as well. But let's start up and go for a drive. The A3 still continues to use Audi's nice little key fob. I love Audi's fob because it's just so small, has nice little bits of metal on it here, and just feels pretty expensive even with a little bit of plastic you have on it. But of course, it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. In this one, I believe they say that the more advanced key here is only on these top trims. So I don't know if you get the proximity thing on the base one, but at least here on this top one you do. And of course it is, you know, just a thing where you hit the push button start here, and it starts up. For some reason it didn't register the first time. All right, so setting off here in the 2025 Audi A3. So the first thing you notice about this vehicle, I think the first thing that I notice about it is the very good visibility you have. You do have a really nice amount of visibility, especially considering how low you're sitting in this vehicle. It does feel a little lower than like a Jetta, for example, and even some of the other competitors, I'd say. And so that's great. You know, you have a nice thin A-pillar, good view out of the sides, good view out of the back, nice and easy as far as all that goes. One thing that is a little hit or miss sometimes is the throttle response. This is a frequent complaint I have with other Volkswagen and Audi group vehicles here, where in this, it's just a dual clutch thing, I think, as this does run a 7-speed dual clutch automatic. You can still feel it engaging every once in a while, and it isn't totally smooth. And compared to some of the other competitors that either have torque converter automatics or CVTs, things like that, you know, those are always going to be a lot smoother, versus this is a little sportier. If you care about that, if you don't, just know that you know, there's a little bit of refinement there that's lacking in the A3 that the other competitors don't make you settle for. Other things though, I do also notice a little bit of road noise here. You know, it's probably still better than a Jetta or something, but Again, I'm just kind of wishing that it was a little quieter in here. I know it's just the A3, but you know, it would have been nice to see a little bit more sound deadening here for 2025 possibly as well. Other things here, brakes have a nice responsive feeling to them, and you know, feel very confidence inspiring. And otherwise though, you know, steering has a nice way to it here, very, you know, natural and easy to use. And the ride quality is pretty okay for a vehicle in this segment. Again, I don't think it's the softest, but most of the other competitors are a little stiff too. CLA's equally stiff, I'd say. 228i I haven't driven, but you know, I think, you know, like Integra might be a little bit softer, but you know, this does feel very solid, I can say, and does feel very much like it's a high quality product. It does feel a little more advanced as far as you know, just the refinement here compared to a Jetta, with just everything feeling nice and tight. But I'm going to go ahead and put it up into the dynamic mode here with the drive mode selector. There's also an individual setting that allows you to, in this vehicle, just change the throttle response and the steering weight, because there isn't any adaptive dampers or anything else to change here. But in dynamic mode here, we got the transmission in its sport mode as well. Let's turn down onto this back road and see how it does. Here we go. All right, took it a second, and then it works nice and hard to get you going here. And so we still have a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with a 48-volt mild hybrid system, just extended stop-start basically. And in this application, it only does 201 horsepower, 236 pound-feet of torque. And we do have a bump of 15 pound-feet of torque here for 2025. So there's a little more grunt than before. You know, it still is basically tied for last place as far as power in this segment though. Acura Integra does also 200 horsepower, although that does less torque than this, so that is still the slowest in the segment, but this is the runner-up because it's you know, not a lot of power. You know, the BMW does 241 horsepower, Mercedes does, I believe, almost 230, Cadillac CT4 does, you know, like almost 250. I mean, there's a lot of other punchier options than this, but you know, for just a nice little luxury commuter vehicle, this is going to be completely fine. I think it's about a 6 seconds 0 to 60, which isn't really slow at all. So it does a really good job of maximizing the power, again, through this 7-speed dual clutch automatic. Also, it's important to note that all A3s are now all-wheel drive. Previously, there was an option to get front-wheel drive in these. That is no more, so now you have to get all-wheel drive if you want an A3. And of course, if you do want more power, there is the S3 version. I actually just reviewed that not too long ago. That gives you 300 horsepower. Lots of fun. There's also the insane RS3 with a 5-cylinder turbo and over 400 horsepower. So, you know, plenty of options there. But anyway, coming up some corners here I always take. Let's see how the A3 handles. We just have, you know, regular all-season tires, of course, and you know, it handles itself really nicely. I do really like just the steering weight, and especially in dynamic mode here, it's a little bit heavier, but still just, it all feels nice and sharp and very, again, confidence inspiring. It just point and go, and it's very obedient and happy to do it. And so, yeah, I mean, there's not really a whole lot else to say about this. You know, they are pretty light still. They only weigh just over 3,500 pounds. So, you know, nice, small, pretty light car, even for a luxury vehicle with all-wheel drive. And so, you know, it just all adds to this nice and manageable feeling here with this vehicle. It's very easy to maneuver. Obviously, it's very easy to park. It also does have park assist. It's standard, by the way. But yeah, it's no complaints here. And again, if you want a more sophisticated suspension, the S3 does give you adaptive dampers, but it is worth noting that other competitors do offer adaptive dampers, at least in their regular versions without all the extra power, and that's something you don't get here. But like Integra offers that, CLA offers that, I believe the BMW even does as well. So just keep that in mind for those of you who are enthusiasts. But again, these are all so closely priced that if you're an enthusiast at all, just go for the actual sport versions with the S3, and I think you'll have a much better time than here in this. And now out on the highway here in the A3, and you know, it's a little noisy, but you know, again, most of the other things in this segment are as well, so no big deal there. And you know, but this is especially a noisy section of highway, and you know, but again, you start cranking up this stereo, drown out some of the road noise with that, or a good conversation or whatever, and it won't be so bad. But we do also have here adaptive cruise control only in these top trims, but you do get like lane guidance and all the other stuff, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, automatic emergency braking, all those types of things as standard. And going around a gentle corner here now, this isn't, again, quite as advanced as some of the other higher end Audi systems, but it does a nice job there of helping me around the corner. It is, of course, still a hands-on system, but I kind of let it do most of the steering there, and it handled that just fine. And Audi systems in the past year or two have gotten a lot better with the lane keep assist, in my opinion. So it is a nice assistance here out on the highway. And but it's nice that you get a good amount of standard features, because that is something where some of the others still do nickel and dime you a little bit. But it is unfortunate that adaptive cruise is still locked out of the lower trims, unless you get a convenience package, I believe, which also can add that on for $1,700 extra. But there is stuff like the Integra that just makes that standard these days, and it'd be nice to see them do that here in the Audi at some point as well. But in the meantime, it's nice you give people that option, I suppose. If they don't want it, they can save the money. But otherwise, it's still a very nice and pleasant cruiser out here. Fuel economy for the A3 is 24 mpg city, 34 mpg highway, and 28 mpg combined. And in my driving here, just mostly around town suburban driving, but I did actually have a decent amount of highway mixed in. But I'm averaging 26.5 mpg, and that's including a little bit of idling to film this interior. So probably you can round it up to 27. So this is overperforming the city rating, and typically I get 1 to 2 mpg less than the city rating in my driving. So the fact that I am beating that and almost at that combined figure is really impressive. And it does seem like this motor does want to overperform on fuel economy, because even the delivery driver that drove 4 hours from Washington DC to Pittsburgh, they averaged 38 mpg here, even 4 mpg better than what it's rated at on the highway. So this motor will overperform, I'm pretty sure, in just about every scenario. So that's really great. Even if you don't have the most power, at least you get some really good efficiency, even without any kind of hybrid system or anything like that. And so that's really great. And then the last thing to mention here, though, is the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So they start at $39,500, and this one, as tested, is $46,000, fully loaded with everything that it comes with. And like I said, with this fully loaded version, that's the only way you get the satellite radio, the smart key, some of the extra lighting here on the doors and things like that, as well as adaptive cruise control. So these can be a little more expensive whenever you load them up, but compared to their primary competitors, this is actually really well priced. And if you want to get the best price possible on an A3 or any vehicle for that matter, you're definitely going to head over to maranmotoring.com. There you'll get access to dealer invoice pricing on that new car quotes page, as well as getting connected to a local dealer here to show you the new A3 as well, let you take it for a test drive, check it out, and see what you think about the new A3. So there's going to be a link in the description, as well as a link in a pinned comment to take you straight to that site and get you all that information. And so as far as how the A3 compares to its competition, so the main two competitors here are going to be the BMW 228i Grand Coupe and also the Mercedes CLA. Now the CLA is in its last model year here before the next generation comes. That'll probably be a lot more expensive, and CLA, I'll just say right off the bat, starts $1,500 more than this is fully loaded. So a base CLA is $1,500 more than this with everything on it. So it's just way more expensive. Unless you can get a crazy lease deal or something, or a giant discount, forget the CLA. The BMW is also, I think, a little tighter on the inside. It does give you a little bit more power, which is nice, and I believe a bigger screen as well. But that also starts a little bit more expensive, about $3,000 higher. And then for a fully loaded version that's comparable to this, it'll run you about $4,000 more expensive. Now it does give you a couple more features, like a head-up display, for example. But that also kind of comes at a price premium. Again, if the deal is there, great. Otherwise, as far as MSRPs go, this is hands down the best value in the segment when you're talking about strictly the German competitors. But there's a lot of other really compelling competitors. And the first thing I'll say is right within Volkswagen Group, it comes down to, I guess, exactly what you're after. But even if you don't care about sportiness, just know that a Volkswagen Jetta GLI gives you more power, it gives you ventilated seats, it gives you a smaller screen, but gives you adaptive dampers, and obviously the Jetta also gives you a little bit more space. It's not quite as refined, obviously, it's just a Volkswagen, but if you don't need the Audi Prestige here, I would say, you know, that's 34 grand for a fully loaded Jetta GLI. Fantastic option. Also comes with the option for a manual plus the dual clutch automatic, and just overall, you know, a really good value. But it's not fair because it's not a luxury brand. GTI though also, you know, is much better performer, gives you cooled seats, bigger screen for 42 fully loaded. So there's those types of things. Also Mazda 3 turbo, 250 horsepower, all-wheel drive. A quieter ride than this, I would say. A fantastic Bose stereo. Those are like 37 grand. So there's a lot of luxury adjacent competitors, I'd say, that are going to be the best value if, you know, you are after value. But getting back to the luxury competitors here, there are two others I want to briefly mention. The first is the Acura Integra, which is only front-wheel drive, so that is something that might be a deal breaker for some people. But if you can live with front-wheel drive, you have equal amounts of horsepower. You do get a little bit less torque, so again, it is a little slower, but it starts at $34,000, and fully loaded it's only $40,000. And that also, even with the fully loaded version, gives you adaptive dampers, gives you the option for a manual, a fantastic ELS stereo that's even better than this, I'd say, and you also get a giant hatch there with the Integra. Now, you know, it does share a lot with the Honda Civic, so, you know, it doesn't feel quite as convincing as a luxury product than this does, for example, but you know, I think aside from that, you know, at least you are in a premium branded vehicle there. It does give you some really nice features, and you know, is a nice savings there. If you do need to have all-wheel drive, I think still my favorite in this segment is the Cadillac CT4, just because it's on a rear-wheel drive based platform, but it is available with all-wheel drive as well. But just handling is hands down the best in this segment. It also gives you more power, and just is a really nice one to drive, and also does come in about $1,500 less expensive than this vehicle. Now, for that, you don't get the moonroof as standard. You also don't get digital gauges as standard in that CT4, so a little less feature content. But if you're okay with that, again, you come out with a savings for, in my opinion, a better car. And then even if you load it up with, you know, the Bose stereo, all the luxury features and everything, you still come out to be only $1,800 more. And for that extra upcharge, you also do get ventilated seats, for example, heated steering wheel, head-up display, and you also even have the option for Super Cruise, although that's a very expensive, like $7,000 package. But if you want hands-free driving, you even have that there on the highway with the Super Cruise option. But, you know, just putting that Super Cruise option aside, you know, you get some really nice stuff there in the CT4 for just a little bit more money. And so if it were my money, I'd probably go CT4. A3, though, is still one of my favorites. I'd easily, obviously, take it over the other Germans just based on the better value here in the A3 and the fact that it is a little more convincing than Integra, for example, if you are actually after a luxury experience. But overall, yeah, I really do like the A3 still, though. And even though it's not perfect, and again, I wish I had a heated steering wheel, I wish I had cooled seats and stuff, you know, it is still a very nice vehicle. And again, the fact that it's priced pretty well, you know, compared to its competition, you know, makes it a little bit more redeeming. And I'm just happy we still have these small luxury vehicles around as well. More and more companies are talking about dropping entry-level vehicles and all this. And I'm happy that Audi not only keeps this around, but also invested some money to make it even better here for 2025 and improve it. And as a result, you know, I think that it's still just a really nice option to have here on the market. But that's all of my thoughts here on the 2025 A3. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Audi for providing me here with this vehicle to review for you guys today. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.